Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to this week's Belonging series. It's Imperial as One's candid interview series exploring the BAME experience. And this week every week I'm happy to introduce our guest, but this week we've got Jemmar Samuels. Now, Jemmar Samuels is an award-winning BAFTA award-winning artist, activist, and academic. And I just want us to really enjoy having her on the show today. And she's going to tell us a bit about her experience that has helped her to become the woman that she is right now. So, Jemmar, I'm going to start off my questions. If you want to just unmute yourself and come on camera, that would be brilliant.
Hi.
Hi, you're right.
I'm fine. That's what background because my room's a mess.
Don't worry about it. Right. It's really good to have you on today. As you know, like to just start off by asking you a few questions about your experiences, which have led you to become an BAFTA award-winning artist, but also the work which you do, your work as an activist. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of your childhood and some of the motivations which has led you to where you are now?
Okay, so I'm from South London. I was born in South London. Grew up in and around the Brixton area, up until the age of 11.
Mm-hmm.
And my family moved to Jamaica. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, were you a bad child? Did you get sent back?" No, my family just packed up and we just moved to Jamaica. I moved to St. Elizabeth, where my family's from, and I lived there until I was like 16 years old. And then we didn't come back until my grandfather got sick. And now my mom's his part-time carer and I help her with that. But yeah, that is my childhood in a summary, I guess.
But tell me a little bit about tell me a little bit more about your childhood, that transition, because oftentimes the stories I've heard is like young people traveling from abroad and coming to the UK, whereas
Yeah.
your story is slightly different, where you moved from the UK to Jamaica, so from a predominantly white country to a predominantly black country. How did that impact you as an 11-year-old?
It was a huge culture shock. Even though prior to going to Jamaica, I used to go to Jamaica every single like summer or when someone died. And I remember being in school, I'd be sick for one day and I'd come back the next day and my friends would be like, "Oh, I thought you went to Jamaica." I'm like, "No, just sick." Because I went to Jamaica that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like saying I'm Jamaican in primary school, doing like culturals. Like my friends would say I'm Ghanaian, other friends say I'm Nigerian, and I'm like, I'm Jamaican. And all I knew about Jamaica was Beanie Man. That's like my only reference point for why we're the best country in the world. But then moving to Jamaica was a completely different thing. Like my friends indirectly like gave me like a crash course, like what it means to be Jamaican, Jamaican culture, how life is, especially in rural Jamaica as well. I went to an elite girls' school and Hampton School, and it had like an old British school type system where if a teacher would come into the classroom, you'd have to stand up and say good morning, and you couldn't sit down until they let you. When going up the stairs, we always have to walk on the right, and teachers would walk down the left. And if a teacher's coming down, you had to stop. And I remember a couple of times that you'd be walking in like behind a bunch of people, and then they just stop, and you're like, "What's going on?" And you look, and he's like, "Oh, he's a teacher," so you have to just wait. So yeah, it was like this. It was a culture shock, and my school taught me discipline. My family, my friends taught me what it means to be Jamaican and like the realness of like what it's like to live in Jamaica and grow up in Jamaica, the
Mm-hmm.
trials and tribulations. And that kind of prepared me when I came back to the UK. Come back to the UK, I was much more aware of the privileges of being born in the UK and living in the UK. You know, I remember being in the sixth one thinking, education's free. Like I was getting a bursary when I was in sixth form, so I was like, they're paying me to be here.
Yeah.
Free glasses, free orthodontics, NHS, and that kind of stuff. Obviously, university, you know, student finance. Like this year, my best friend, she had to have a GoFundMe because the University of West Indies, if you don't pay your school fees or accommodation fees, well, at least school fees, you can't sit your exams, so that then delays when you finish your degree. And I have a lot more friends who they're like 26, 27, 28, and that's when they finish the degree, because they start going uni, run out of money, stop, go to work, so they can get paid to go to university, whereas I, so the finance is there. So I became a lot aware of the privileges that I have coming back. My school taught me discipline, but going up to Jamaica, the bullying that I received, which a lot of people are surprised about because it's considered a Black nation. The colorism and the hair texture discrimination that I experienced broke me, and like left the last impact.
Would you mind going into that a bit more? What do you mean about the bully? For me, it sounds a bit. No, I'm not going to say. I was going to say that it sounds a bit strange that you're in a black culture, but yet you said that you felt that you were being bullied because of skin color and because of hair texture. Can you explain what do you mean? What happened? Can you give any illustrations?
So, like, in terms of Jamaica, like, our mother is out of many one people, which I kind of hate, because most of us are like of African descent. Like, we're like 97% people of African descent. But I can admit that, we are a somewhat diverse country. Like, I look Black, I'm Black. And I say, I'm of African descent, but I do know that, like, in my family, that my great-great-grandmother was a white woman, and then I have a whole whole section of my family is just people that are either they literally look white or they're very fair-skinned, right? So I do acknowledge, our history means that a lot of us, even though we may look mainly African descent, we are maybe a little bit mixed, but that's a whole other conversation. So I went to high school, and there were Black girls, and obviously Black comes in all shades, so like ranging from dark skin to light skin, girls that look like they're of Asian descent, girls that look like they're of European descent, and that kind of stuff, and then all the mixes in between. Very, in terms of the hierarchy, understanding like the history of slavery and colonization, the Caribbean, that kind of, or Jamaica at least, what happens is that people that are of European descent, or more so European descent than Asian descent, because in terms of Asian descent, it's East Asian is probably like right under European people. It's like a racial hierarchy, basically.
Right, okay.
And they tend to be the ones that have the wealth, run companies, and obviously historically, if you have wealth and run countries, that kind of stuff, you're most likely going to be educated. So a lot of people where I grew up associated wealth and beauty and intelligence with being lighter skinned.
Right.
And then looking at me, I'm a dark-skinned Black girl. So many people were shocked when I opened my mouth and I spoke. And I'm English. Wait, you were born there? Oh. And then, they associate being born in England having all these privileges and that kind of stuff and living a better life. So some people hated me for it. Some people were intrigued by the fact that, you look like us, but you were born there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of like the hierarchy, because my school is very elitist. I love my school so much. Amazing school, but it's very elitist. The popular girls tended to be either the girls that were rich, and that picked, like, the rich girls were very often lighter skinned girls, or girls that look mixed, or of Asian or European descent, that kind of stuff. The kind of girls where like their dads own this company and that company, or this MP or whatever, and like they spend the weekends flying to Miami because Miami's so close and they can afford it, kind of thing. Yeah. And then I remember, like, just because I built my friendships off of just like people who I care about, I realized that my friendship group, because my school was in St. Elizabeth, which is the country, but it was a boarding school, so girls from all over the island came over. My friends were all day girls like me, so we're local girls, and all my friends, I realized that there was a lot of discrimination that my friends experienced because they were seen as like local girls who just got lucky to make it to this good school. And I remember recently I had a conversation with my friend who, they got bullied at one point. They were told that, you guys are going to drop out of school and get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to make it to university. They all but one made it to university.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that the rich popular girls, a lot of them are mothers, but no one thinks that, their life is ruined because they're mothers. But that's all the conversation. So it was very elitist, and like being dark skinned, looking like I'm just a local girl who just got lucky to come to the school. I got bullied a lot. Some people treat me differently when they found out I was born in the UK. Some people didn't care. but yes, I got bullied for my complexion. Like, I'd be reminding everybody, yeah, you're really dark, or you're really ugly, or like your nose is really big. My personal favorite is your lip is long like a mango skin peel.
Oh my goodness.
I like your hair's really dry, and I just remember like I like that paired with the fact that St. Elizabeth like is known, like literally a lot of people know the parish for having people that are fair skinned.
Yeah.
I remember someone saying to someone, I'm from St. Elizabeth, they're like, why are you not brown?
Yeah.
I had cousins who advocated for me to bleach my skin. So
Wow.
then they started handing me the bleaching creams. And then I started bleaching my skin when I was like 12. And then by the time I was 15, I was going to get a nose job and my lips done, and I was perming my hair because I was like, I hate my hair. And coincidentally, when I started doing that, compliments started to fly. I remember like some people being in school and being class and like, you know what, you're actually kind of pretty. And it was like the same time I started do this process, what I call my process is becoming beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the bullying was tough, and it really left a mark on me.
Yeah. There's so much that you've highlighted there, right, which we could unpack. Is there's a whole idea about classism, as well as the discrimination through colorism which you experienced, and the fact that you were a local. Did you get a scholarship to go to the school? Did you?
No, so because I put it down to, because of the conversion rate of money, going from the UK to Jamaica, it was almost like we were rich, but we weren't rich.
Okay. Yeah.
It just money is just that week. And then that was paired with, so my dad, so he's my stepfather, but I consider him to be my dad. He actually comes from a very well-off family.
Yeah.
His distant cousins are two former prime ministers in the local area. You know, if I say my grandfather's name, then they know who I am, they know who my family is. I went to the Commonwealth Youth Forum in 2018 when the CHOGM that came to London, and luckily my MP came to the UK. MP in Jamaica came to the UK to talk, and I went up to him, I was like, hi, and not to be rude, but like I said, hi, I'm Jemmar, and I really like your speech. And he kind of brushed me off, and then I took a sign and I said, my grandfather is so-and-so. I went to Hampton School. And then he was like, oh, next you know, he followed me on Twitter and I followed him. And we took a picture together. So you can see the power of like my grandfather, my family name.
Yeah.
So my dad coming from a family that gave me some standing with certain people. Certain people didn't care, but some people did. And I think having that balance, is it nuance, I guess, like made me, because I can honestly say if it was, I don't know, for whatever reason, if they like the elite popular girls accepted me for, you know, who I was, but they accepted that, you know, she has money, or she comes from a royal family, or she's from England. If we just choose to like her, my experience would have probably been different. I probably would have never been as bullied as much. Probably some insecurities, but I'm glad that, you know, one thing, some people say, what would you do different? I was like, no, everything exactly the same, because it brought balance to my life. Like, I look the way I look, so people treat me a certain way. I come from where I come from, so people treat me a certain way. My family background also played a huge influence in that as well. So I wasn't considered a local girl simply because everyone knew that, you know, I could catch a flight and go back to the UK.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one other question then with regards to that. Do you think, because when thinking about the colorism, and you talked about the whole from fair skin to dark skin, there being this gradient of acceptability, as it were, even being given bleaching creams or bleaching things to so do you put that down to kind of like a historic legacy of colonialism within the Caribbean? That was why it was so prominent, and especially at Hampton School for Girls.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I remember doing this book in English literature, and it was a Caribbean literature book, and it was a Jamaican one actually, and it was, I can't remember the exact storyline, but the plot. But basically, there was dark-skinned black woman, and she had to sleep with her boss, who was a fair-skinned man, in order to get extra money to support herself and her husband, who was also dark-skinned. And that boss was a light-skinned man who went to Monroe, and he was very stupid. but because of the complexion of his skin, he got ahead in life. Since my experience, I haven't fully dabbled into it because I feel like I still need to process a lot of things. But I know that we have a huge skin bleaching problem in Jamaica. There are reports in terms of institutional colorism, as I like to call it. Like, people reported that bank tellers in Jamaica at one point tended to be people that were brown skinned because they were more attractive, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it definitely is down to a colonial history. Definitely. It's not a coincidence that like, you literally see a white person, and I think this is when we were talking before. I was saying people tend to ask me, what's it like growing up in Jamaica? I say there's visiting Jamaica as a non-black Jamaican person, and there's visiting as a black person or as a Jamaican, and there's living there as a Jamaican, and there's even living there as a non-black Jamaican person. Those experiences are very, very different. The treatment that I've seen white tourists get is I understand why. It's a lot of kiss assing, because it's like, they might, like, I've seen the common joke of like, oh, if you make this woman fall in love with you, you can get married to her and get a passport and go to the US, go to Canada, go to the UK, kind of thing. Or if not sure, when they go back, they'll send you money. It's a bad thing, but it's hustling, because surviving, because life is tough. Right. Jamaica's a developing country, especially in rural Jamaica. My house was like one of the only built houses in the village, because my mom built it in the village that my family's from. But JPS current would just go even though we paid our light bill. Water would just go even though we paid our water bill. Like, the standard of living is not the best. 1 second, sorry.
We'll be back in a second. Not quite sure. Some very interesting ideas there.
Sorry, my brother was knocking on my door. Boundaries. Do not interrupt me.
So you were saying about the standard of living is very different compared to the UK. So let's talk about that transition then back from Jamaica to the UK and getting your sense of identity. But did you feel like you belonged when you were in Jamaica?
It took me most of my time there, but by my final year there, and I didn't know it was going to be my final year, I felt like I belonged, but I do admit that I felt like I assimilated a lot. I fully put on a Jamaican accent. That, like, I fully learned to speak Jamaican patois. Like, it's funny, my cousin sent my mum a post, and it was in Jamaican patois, and there was no full stops, nothing. So it's just one thing, and my mum could not read it. She could not read to save her life. And I remember I just came over and I just read it out to her, and my cousin was like, "How you have Jemmar read it better than you?" Like, he could not. My mom was looking at me like, "What?" Like, I was reading it better than her, and which is funny because going to elite British style school, it's in my school planner that we should always speak standard Jamaican English, never speak Jamaican patois. So I learned it because I wanted to. And I remember, like, literally by my final year, I literally remember one of my friends coming up to me saying, "Jemmar, you're British?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I didn't know. I thought you had a really bad British accent." I was like, "Well, I must be doing something right. If your British accent is bad and my Jamaican patois is good." So I definitely assimilated to, like, protect myself, because obviously, like, things like, if I spoke in certain public places, something that's $200 goes to $400 very quickly. And then there's all these questions about, like, some people really don't understand. Like, everyone has a cousin abroad, but some people really don't understand the fact that, what are you doing here? Like, I was like, I remember a lot of my friends were very amused by the fact that I had more cousins in the local area than almost any other local girl. They couldn't understand. It's like, "You're from the UK, why do you have more cousins than us?" I'm like, "Because where my family's from." Like, my bus driver was my mom's cousin, and the guy that owned the buses was my dad's cousin. So like, they could not understand why I had more cousins than them. But yeah, I definitely assimilated to blend in, so it made my life easier, which it did.
So what about when you came back to the UK? What was that transition like? So you spent your first 11 years here. You go to Jamaica, and then you transition back from Jamaica to the UK. How was that for you?
You know what? I remember coming back and I thought I'd fit right in, and I didn't. I remember a lot of my Caribbean friends told me that, and I don't know, maybe it was the discipline, maybe it was the conservative nature of Jamaican culture in my school, but, like, a lot of people told me I was like an auntie or grandma. Like, I was very calm and sensible and responsible. They like at least remember friends saying, "You remember my grandma? You remember my auntie?" Like, and they also told me I had a strong Jamaican accent. I thought I was speaking English, but they were like, "Yeah, but we can tell that you are Jamaican." Teachers complimented me on my level of discipline. I guess they thought that coming from Jamaica that I'd probably be like somewhat stupid, but they were surprised that I'd come to school and I'd do my work and get it done. Just done kind of thing. What else is there? Say the question again, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It was just in terms of that transition back to the UK.
Oh, another thing is that I found that I knew a lot more about Jamaica than people that were of Jamaican descent that grew up here.
Right.
And it was something that amazes me today, like going to school in Jamaica every morning, if it's not the national anthem, I would say the national pledge. I know the national symbols, national heroes, that kind of stuff. The history, like I know stuff about Jamaica that like only people that went to school in Jamaica would know. And then like a lot of, if it's not me going back and forth with people my age because they're like, no, like this is what it is. And I'm like, no, literally I grew up in Jamaica. This is what it is. It's an older person who's Jamaican being confused as to why I know so much about Jamaica, or I have such an understanding of Jamaican culture and history.
Yeah.
There's that element as well. Yeah.
So let's move on to, because I want to go kind of back, but I want to go forward as well, because with regards to your experience of like colorism, and part of the things which when I've read about all of the exciting things that you've done is about your activism. How did you get into that? What drove you in that direction?
So when I came back to the UK, my grandfather was sick, so he had a stroke, and to this day he can't talk or use his right hand. Right. So at the time it was like, take care of granddad, get me, myself, and my siblings, everyone into education. That was the main thing. So at that point, coming back to the UK, I stopped bleaching my skin and I stopped perming my hair. And I don't know. I'm always obsessed with like growth and like changing. So I remember saying to myself, I want to change my look. So then I was watching natural hair videos about by African American women, how to do your natural hair, take care of your natural hair. And through those videos, I started to learn about self-love and self-care and like colorism and hair texture discrimination and then racism on a more general scale. And then I started to be like hypersensitive to like the problematic things that people say around me. It's like one of my family members saying, "Oh, stay at the sun, you don't want to get dark." Well, what's wrong with getting dark? Or a family member saying, "Your hair is really nappy." Well, what's wrong with your hair being nappy? Why is that a problem? My hair's messy or it's unprofessional kind of thing. In sixth form, I remember the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But the influence.
Go ahead.
So the Kardashians, I don't know if anyone knows, but the Kardashians, social influencers, that kind of stuff, they had a lot of surgery at the time. Kylie Jenner, she was like 17 or 16. And if she was 16, I was 17. If she was 17, I was 18. And basically she had thin lips, and she got lip fillers. And in order for her to get lip fillers in the state that she lives in, her mom had to sign up on that. And then the internet went into a craze because they're like, she got lip fillers, she's so sexy now, she's so attractive and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember being so angry because then the Kylie Jenner lip challenge happened. And basically what people would do is they get like a cup and they stick it on their mouth, suck it into the mouth until the blood rushes to their lips, and then their lips will be swollen, take it off and then take a picture or take a video and just laugh. And everyone was like, let's do the challenge, let's do the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. And I was like, me, Jemmar, with my full lips that got bullied in high school, saying my lip is long like a mango skin pool, you guys want me to do this challenge? So Kylie Jenner, a white girl in America, made fuller lips cool. Wow, I was angry. So I got really angry about a lot of like the things, just the normal things that, you know, happen on an everyday basis. But I was becoming aware. I was teaching myself, purely accidentally, but I was teaching myself about these things. And then at the time, luckily, I was also in sixth form. And just backstory, because I came back at such an awkward time, to this day I only have 2 GCSEs, which surprises a lot of people because they're like, what? I only have 2 GCSEs, maths and English. And I remember being in one of my assemblies and they were like, you guys need to do extracurricular stuff. And at that time I hadn't got my GCSEs, so I was like, I don't even have GCSEs. How am I going to get into university? So I joined football. I became a girl guiding. I joined Girl Guiding. I was volunteering at Oxfam, all of these things. And I joined the Lambeth Co-op because that's the borough that I live in. And Lambeth Co-op has like a pot of money that it would give to like organizations to do stuff for young people. And I saw that this advert for this collective called the Advocacy Academy, they were trying to get funding from the co-op. And it was like this social justice program for kids based in Brixton. It's teaching them activism and campaigning and discussions about politics and social issues. And at this point, me, Jemmar, I want to talk about colorism all the time and hair texture discrimination and that kind of stuff. And my friends at sixth form, they couldn't understand why I was so obsessed with these things. I'd get into a lot of arguments because I didn't know, because I got bullied that badly. Like, if you ask me my name, I'd be like, my name is Jemmar Samuels. Like, I was very insecure and shy and not confident at all. But I really got angry when I thought about these issues and how it affected me. So I applied to this program, and I remember in the last question was in 100 words, what makes you angry? It talks about the Kylie Jenner lip challenge, and I went off. And then I did my interview, and I never forget the founder, when she spoke to my mum, she was like, Jammar's interview was shit. Like, because I was so shy. But then in the last question again, it's like, what makes you angry? And I said, can I talk about what I talked about in my application? She said, yeah. And I went off again. My anger showed. And like, she was like, yes, I want this guy on the program. And on the program, it taught me activism, campaigning, organizing, negotiating, public speaking. I never forget, Amelia brought in this actor to help us with our public speaking. And I couldn't say my name. And I never forget, he stopped me, said, listen, because he knew my speech, because we were going to do speeches in Parliament. That was at the end of the first part of the program. And I was talking about colorism and hair texture discrimination. And at that point, I became comfortable with saying, I used to bleach my skin. I used to perm my hair. I used to hit my lips and my nose.
Yeah.
I never stopped me, and he said, listen, your story is not just your story. Your story is my story. And I really took him in. I was like, this is a dark-skinned black man with a broad nose and full lips like me. I was like, Jemmar, this isn't just about you anymore. And at that point, I realized that, I'm doing this for other people as well.
Yeah.
And then he said, say your name. He said, Jemmar Samuels. So like now when I say my name is Jemmar Samuels, and I say it with confidence because of that conversation. But yeah, so I started with that program, and then I left. I still work a part of that I'm still part of that collective. We just launched a natural hair campaign this week.
Brilliant.
And then from there, I started to get into more writing opportunities, more organizing opportunities, filmmaking opportunities. And that obviously just built my CV and then built my soft skills. Yeah. But I like the essence of I'm organizing storytelling. And I do know that I have a powerful story in terms of like my personal experience there. But I've been through so much in life. Like my therapist, my tutor at university said I should write a book. Yeah. So like, and I have the ability to say, oh yes, I got bullied in high school, but it was there was elements of colorism and hair texture discrimination in that. There's wider social issues that need to be addressed, and I can do that with a lot of different aspects of my life. Yeah. And the ability to do that and tell a story when I want to do a campaign or when I want to raise awareness on a specific issue, I have the ability to make that connection, to make the personal political, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's what I want to do, and that's what I like to do, and that's what I'm good at. So that's how my activism journey came about.
So I know, because I remember when I met you at Brunel University, and I went and I investigated your little background, and I saw your video, which if anyone who is listening in and watching, have a look at Jammar's video, her BAFTA award-winning video, which tells her story. It is amazing. In making that video, was it kind of cathartic? What was the point that you wanted to make in that video, and did it give you some kind of output, some release? How would you describe that process for you?
Do you know what? So the process, so that opportunity came about through the Advocacy Academy. The director is friends with the founder of the Advocacy Academy. Mm-hmm. And originally the plan was to make a short film about a politician, but that became too difficult. So they chose activists. So he went to his friend who has a whole school of young activists, and he chose me. He thought my story was the most interesting. Mm-hmm. And I remember we met and we discussed my life, my day to day. He'd gone to like our graduation ceremonies and that kind of stuff, and he chose me. And then I remember I went to their studio in like North London, and I sat there and he asked me like about my life and my opinions on certain things, and he got 4 hours of material of me just talking.
Wow.
I could talk for days. And then he cut it down to 10 minutes. And I remember he came back to me, he's like, I want to film your sister, because you have a strong connection with your sister. And the funny thing is, I do have a strong connection with my sister, but I didn't realize until I made that documentary. Like that little in my bed, and she's 14 now, she's taller than me. Yeah, so like, I want to film in your house, and I was like, no. I remember he said, I want to film your sister. I was like, I can talk to my mom. I want to film in your house. No. That kind of stuff. And he's like, what do you want? I was like, I want to show where I'm from. I want Brixton in there. I want Hernhill in there. I want everything that means me in there, kind of thing. And all like the clothes I wore was like a lot of slogan tees, because I love a slogan tee, talking about like especially about race and gender, that kind of stuff. My hair, I put my hair in the hairstyle that growing up I felt like it wasn't feminine. It was very childish, and it was arguably one of the most messy ones, because single plaits, you first do it and you go straight down, but then I sleep bad, so like it's gonna, as you can see in the documentary, it's all over the place. So like, so I wanted a hairstyle that made me uncomfortable. I was very intentional with a lot of things in the documentary. Like my primary school was shown, my mum's shop was shown, Brixton was shown, like a lot of things were very intentional in terms of the message. It's meant to be an educational resource, so it's being used up and down the UK and actually overseas, because like my friend in Bermuda used it and that kind of stuff in his work. But educational resource, so that was the intention for it. And it was meant to teach kids about activism, but because of my story, colorism also is another thing, because especially in the UK, predominantly white country, a lot of people don't know about colorism. But then some people know, and then they contribute to it, like it's continuous, but that's all the conversation. So at first I just thought, okay, I just did this documentary, going to be used in schools. But now I realize it's like the perfect way for me to tell my story without having to repeat myself again. It answers a lot of questions automatically. And when people talk to me, having watched the documentary, then we can have the conversation to just progress further, because we've got the basics of like who I am, what I'm about, what I do, what I went through, kind of thing. So yeah, now I feel like it's me explaining myself without having me to actually explain myself. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that documentary.
It's an excellent documentary and a worthy award winner as far as I was concerned.
Thank you.
One other thing then, of course, I'm going to open it up to if there are any questions from the audience, but just in terms of where to from now, what kind of activism are you currently engaged in, and what is it that you want to see going forward, either from an educational, whichever perspective? What is it that's motivating you now?
So obviously the natural hair campaign that we just launched is called the Halo Collective. It exists to end hair discrimination in the UK. The whole, simplistically put, and I might get in trouble because I might not get all the points in, because we have like a whole set of things that we need to get through. We want schools, organizations, individuals to adopt the Halo Code. It's a code that says, we do not discriminate against someone for the type of hair that they have. I mean, specifically for Black people, people have been discriminated, having braids, locks, afros, different kind of boys, different kind of haircuts and that kind of stuff. Our hair does not determine our ability to do the job, and our hair is professional. And me personally, I really want people to interrogate what it means to have messy hair, because that's a huge thing as well. It's like, what does it mean to have messy hair? Our Afro hair that defies gravity. What kind of European or constraints are you thinking when you say our hair is messy or frizzy or that kind of stuff? So that campaign, we're doing that's been launched, and we're building it, and I'm a part of that, and that keeps me going. I was a part of this fellowship, and it's for women of African descent. It's called the Twazeshi Fellowship, which is Swahili. I did a short documentary on gender-based violence in the Caribbean, and I haven't released it because I know it's not done yet. But I've decided, and especially because I want to get into more filmmaking, especially after doing my documentary, I realized I like filmmaking because it's another form of storytelling. I had this documentary about gender-based violence in the Caribbean, which has kind of been done already, but like not the way I've done it. Like I've literally interviewed my friends who, because I've built up a lot of, I've networked a lot across the Caribbean. So I have like one of my friends, she's the president of the Bayesian Youth Council. And my other friend, she does like governmental parliamentary stuff, and she's in Antigua. So like, I have a lot of good connections with a lot of different people in different Caribbean countries, and they all do amazing feminist work. They're all featured in the documentary. I want to fix up, put it together, and then release it properly. So that there's that as well. I'm very much into, there's like the UK activism that I do here for like the African diaspora here, but then I'm also very much interested in what happens back home. I'm obsessed with the politics, the activism, the organizing back home. Like one day I would love to go back to Jamaica and do like organizing campaign and community work there. I still do my writing. I would love to do a master's. What a master's in what, I don't know, but then, you know, I remember someone saying to me, I can do like 10 masters if I have the money to do it. So I want to do a master's. I want to do a PhD. I kind of just want to go with the flow and enjoy life. Because at the same time, I'm still 24, and you know, I don't have to do everything right now. So I'm trying to go with the flow, but also do the things that my heart tells me and my spirit tells me to do. So yeah. Oh, are you on mute? Because I can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah, no, it was my bad. I was just going to ask a quick question. I'm going to see if there's any questions from the audience, if anyone wants to ask a question. Otherwise, I have another couple of questions. Are there any questions from anyone in the audience? If not, I think this whole idea about gender-based violence within the Caribbean, right? I think that's a very interesting area. What made you select that particular topic to produce a documentary on?
So the fellowship, like literally the purpose of fellowship is to talk about gender-based violence or violence against women and girls that fall in the African diaspora. And like I think I was the first Caribbean person of Caribbean descent to be under, like everyone else is Nigerian, Ghanaian, and Zim and that kind of stuff. But so again, it goes back to my thing about the life I've lived. What I overthink a lot and I analyze everything. When I think back to my life, growing up in Jamaica and visiting Jamaica as well, what happened? So I remember one thing. I remember my mum would rarely ever let me and my sister walk up and down on the road, be by ourselves, that kind of stuff. My mum was very worried about us being sexually assaulted. I remember like even just coming home from school every day, a grown man would flirt with me. A grown man, it could be anyone, someone who knew who my parents was, or someone who didn't know who my parents are, and they'd be like, what school do you go to? And it's like, you know what school I go to. I go to one of the top schools in the country. You know this uniform. You're trying to start a conversation with me. So like, I think what really hit me hard was, I think maybe 1 or 3 situations. The first one was this pastor, I think it is. I don't know if it's I think it's a pastor. But basically this religious figure in Jamaica who had a position at my high school. And a couple of years back, he got found out for having sex with underage girls, so rape. And it was this whole commotion because obviously he had a position at an all-girls school, and then the head teacher at my school didn't publicly say I'm struggling to find the right word, but you know what I mean, like distance us from the situation. I think she went to court and it wasn't clear whether or not she went just because she wanted to see or if she was in support of him. That was a commotion and a stir. And I remember, and so this is too explicit for anyone, I remember going to my mum's shop, and the chef at the time, thank God he's gone, I remember I was talking to him, and then out of nowhere he just turns his phone to me and he shows me the video of the pastor even like raping the girl, because it's rape, and he said, look, she's enjoying it. And it was like, what is going through your head to think that this aunt was enjoying this experience? So yeah, there was that. I remember, I think it was 2017 to 2018, it was January, New Year's, and I've never been someone to say, oh my gosh, it's a new year. But I remember just feeling, okay, cool, new year. And I'll never forget, my friends dropped a news article, my friendship group in our WhatsApp chat dropped an article. And the first murder in St. Elizabeth that year was like on January 2nd or something like that. And it was this girl who was like 2-3 years older than us. And essentially, she went to Manchester High, which is obviously a different parish, but her mum used to sell sweets to Hampton and Manor boys in St. Andrews. So all the buses would stop and everyone would buy sweets and snacks from Miss Kim, and her daughter would be there and help. And I think her name's like Aisha. And my friends were friends with her. And she was murdered by her boyfriend. And in the newspaper report, it said that they got into an argument inside the house. She went outside to take a phone call. He came out with a machete and chopped her up.
Oh
and yeah, and in terms of the local community, because obviously this is like, my friends know people. One of my friends said that the reason for the argument was that he felt she was cheating because her vagina felt different. And I remember saying, this is utter ridiculousness. Like, it really hit me because I was like, this is someone I know. I'm not friends with her. This is my friend's friend, but I've seen her. I've somewhat grown up with her. And I thought about her mum and like, how is her mum coping? And then this January, I remember being on Twitter, and I don't know if you know about like the different worlds of Twitter, but I have Jamaican Twitter and I have UK Twitter and like and I remember in Jamaican Twitter, people talking about this soldier that had killed his girlfriend or fiance, and I think this is the second situation of that in like recent times. But what was different about this situation was that he killed himself after killing her, but before killing himself and after killing her, he took pictures of her body and sent a voice note to her close family friends, and then he killed himself. And I remember I went to my group chat to say, does anyone have a news article? Because I couldn't find a news article because I couldn't find the right words. Say, soldier kills girlfriend, voice note. I couldn't find that. And I'll never forget, one of my friends said, I don't have a newspaper article, but I have the pictures and the voice note because it's our friend from high school's cousin. So she got it directly from him.
Oh my
and
God.
before I could go into a huge speech about how we're desensitized to these kind of things, my other friends send it. So it just automatically came through my phone. Next thing I'm looking at this woman, her lifeless body, on my phone. And then other than that, I couldn't help but play the voice note. And in the voice note, it was just the man saying, she told me that she's leaving me for him. So I said, all right, then she can be with him in the afterlife. And then obviously I thought about like the common thing of people saying, oh, she should have left him, but that's what she was going to do. She should have just reported him to the police. But very often, for some reason, a lot of the gender-based violence situations that happen, a lot of them are soldiers or police officers that are harming their partners and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I that one hit home as well. Yeah, it's like a common thing, and obviously gender-based violence exists everywhere. But I think Jamaica and 2 other Caribbean countries are in the top 10 in the world. And obviously, like the complexity of Caribbean cultures, that we're very conservative. A lot of people that like Jamaica has more square churches per square mile than any other country in the world. Last time I checked, I think it was like in the world, Guinness World Record book in like 2018. Very conservative country, but we also have these cultures which are known globally for being open and free and sexually liberating. And then somewhere between that, we have an issue of gender-based violence. And I think all 3 things at play is something that we need to address, have a conversation about, and bring and highlight that, you know, this is all happening.
I totally understand your advocate voice that you have, in terms of the issues. It's been for me, it's been really insightful, this conversation, in looking at feminist issues from a female perspective, not just from a female perspective, but having to try to address and think to ourselves, you know what, this is just wrong. If, you know, men should not be perpetrating these kinds of acts of violence on anybody, and they shouldn't definitely not be perpetrating it on women at all. But if it's pushed under the carpet or silenced or not heard, people will think that it's acceptable, it's normal. And I think the work which you're doing, or you're planning on doing, it should be applauded, and people, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, people need to listen. So I'm just bigging up your platform to say, you know, it is a definite thing which needs to be addressed. All of the issues which you've mentioned, you know, black is beautiful in all its forms.
Yes, it
Right.
is.
All right. So that's my opinion. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but I'm going to just say a big thank you. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I've been asked this before. Sometimes I'm like, I don't give myself any advice because everything that happened was meant to be.
Okay.
All the trauma, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. And then I also wonder if I'd listen. Like, if I was able to give myself advice, would I listen? I remember I wrote a letter to my younger self, and I just said, I kind of just said to myself, everything you're going through happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's all happening for a reason. I know you don't want to hear that. You want answers and solutions and ways to escape it, but everything you're going through happens for a reason. So just hold on to that and try and work with that.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm going to just say again, another really big thank you for this conversation. It's been really insightful. And I'm going to just wish you all the very best. Keep us, when your next video comes out, when your next documentary comes out, send us a copy because we want to promote it.
Thank you so much.
Because it's definitely something that within the community we need to be addressing. We need to understand it, and we need to have, as they say, zero tolerance for it.
Yes.
And so that's wonderful. All right.
Thank you.
So, thank you again. I'm going to just advertise a couple of things which are happening this week. Some may interest you as well. So let me just screen share this. So next week we're going to be having, we're going to be looking at, sorry, Judith Cherney, who's a lecturer here at Imperial College. And she's going to give us a little bit about the Latino experience of being a minority within European populace, and how that makes her feel. So tune in for that one next week, Friday. But if you've missed any, then you can find them on our YouTube channel, which is tinyurl.com belonging IAO. And on Wednesday, we have a special, we're doing a joint activity with the sickle cell disorders in the UK. So we're going to be hosting that on Wednesday lunchtime. So please feel free to go to our website and you'll find information as to how you can join that. But that will be a really good conversation to have as well. So all I want to do is say a big thank you for everyone who's come. A big thank you for you, Jemmar, for coming and sharing your story. And if anyone wants to stay on to have our little after party chat, then please feel free to do that. So thanks again, and I will see you all next week. Let me just stop recording.